This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing from the great state of New Jersey, Vince Gabriele, personal trainer to mastermind consultant. Welcome to your first Halo Talks, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Pete. Honored to be here, brother.
Awesome. So as I was going through your materials, I saw you had a review and a reference from Thomas Plummer. So I didn't really need to read much further than that. Maybe for those people who have not been in the industry before, talk about the Thomas Plummer, road show.
I sat my first Perform Better seminar as a 22-year-old personal trainer, and I saw Plummer speak, and I was like, I want to do that one day. And I remember I bought one of his books right after he spoke, and I was sitting there reading his book, and he walked by with this big entourage. Tom used to walk with this entourage of people. There's like 20 people behind him, and I remember he saw me that I bought his book. He looked at me and he's like, "That's a good book, young man." And he kept walking. And little did I know that he and I would become, close friends. He's a big mentor of mine. And, I owe a lot of the things that I'm doing in the industry for gym owners to Plummer. So amazing guy.
Yeah. So back in 2000 to 2003, I had started a software company, and our one marketing expense was to go on the Thomas Plummer tour, which was probably like 12 cities in,
Yep.
in 8 months. And, it was kind of like a traveling circus, if you will, but like a good kind of circus.
Yes.
And he said, if you need some software, go to that guy. If you need some personal training, go to that guy. If you need treadmills, go to that guy. Take out your daycare center. And then it was a wrap.
Always a generous guy. Yep.
So look, you started up, as a personal trainer. Obviously you were like kind of looking at this and saying like, there's things that could be done more efficiently here. There are things that, can be done to maximize profits. You looked at small group training. So talk about, one, your background, and then two, kind of like your intuition to kind of like go deeper and say, hey, I'm not just going to figure this out for myself, but I actually want to bring this and scale it.
Yeah. So the real quick story is I was an offensive lineman at Temple that was 300 pounds, and I needed to lose weight, and I got into bodybuilding magazines and the whole deal. And I ended up losing weight and got my ISSA certification and all of that old school stuff, right? I moved to San Diego, got my first job as a personal trainer, and I was working with mostly pro athletes and high school athletes at the time. And, 5 years as a personal trainer, doing a lot of one-on-one stuff, I kind of got pretty burnt out and wasn't making a lot of money. I think the most much money I ever made was like 37K in a year. And I always kind of knew when I got into the industry that I wanted to open up my own gym. So I moved to New Jersey, where I'm from originally, opened my own brick and mortar gym, and did okay in the first year or so, but then got really, I know you're a financial guy. I got really into some hot water because I wasn't doing a great job with managing money and managing my finances and everything like that. And I got into some really hard stuff financially. And that is when I realized I needed to learn how to run a business. I was a personal trainer, but I had no idea how to run a business. And I read that at that point I had written re- the E-Myth Revisited. I read that book, and I wrote. I was lucky enough to find some good business knowledge. I found Dan Kennedy at the time, learned about marketing and everything like that. And I really just kind of put my head down and educated myself on business as much as I possibly could. And I turned my whole gym around. We got to seven figures very quickly, and then all of a sudden, there's these people coming out of the woodwork asking me how to grow a business, how to grow a gym and make money with it. And that kind of was the origin of me being a consultant to other gym owners. But it wasn't until I fixed my own gym and I had to learn about business and learn about money. So I only was teaching other people because I was able to do it myself first.
So, if you want to, if we kind of go down this trail of like, what do you think your top three or top two biggest mistakes were that you were able to fix? Obviously, later on when they became much larger, emergency issues for you. But if you said, "Hey, if I was starting from scratch again, here's a couple things that I would avoid, or here's a couple things I did that I will never do."
So I know you're a finance guy, Pete, so you'll appreciate this story. I had early on hired a consultant to come in and spend a day with me, to help me with the business side of stuff. And she started asking me all these questions like, what is your cost per lead? What is the lifetime value of a customer? And she's asking all these questions. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And she stood up and she looked at me and she's like, sorry, bud, I can't help you. And she walked out.
Wow.
And it was like, I remember it was one of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me. And she basically said, she's like, you don't know your number, so I can't really help you. And that was probably, if I look back now, I went way too long not looking at the data, which is the critical drivers and scorecards, the leading indicators, and then the financials and learning how to read a financial statement. And it's weird today. Like I used to not know how to read a financial statement. I have a mastermind group where we meet quarterly and we bring P&Ls. So I've looked at thousands of P&Ls of gym owners. We do it every quarter and all the time. So I would say that that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I made and something I really try to teach all my guys. You got to know your numbers, because when you know your numbers, you're living in reality.
Yeah.
A lot of times we look at things emotionally. We look at things, oh, I feel like this is a problem, or I feel like that's a problem. But if you know your data and you know your numbers, you actually know what problems you have and you know what problems you need to fix.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. There's companies that we've worked with where they're just checking the cash that's in the bank every day, and they're
Yeah.
not really like looking at what the
Yeah.
KPIs are. It's just like a
Yeah.
cash. They're basically running a cash business. Granted, that is the most simplistic way to run the business. The cash flow is either up or it's down, and we got an issue, but you don't really have any kind of, you know, you don't know what's driving that, right?
Right.
Is the issue. So we had a client, and he's awesome, but he's like, when are you guys going to tell me what my EBITDA is? Like what are you going to tell me on this business I've been running for a long time? Like what's the metric that you're trying to hit? And I'm like, well, you kind of should run your business like that in the past. However, like we'll figure it out for you. We'll tell you. But every month going forward, you're gonna like know this number, and
Yeah.
that's the one you're gonna actually drive towards because that's the one you're getting valued off of. So,
Yep.
so that's gonna be our primary one. Um,
Absolutely.
as you kind of got good at what you were doing on your own, look, we're in the services business, Dave and I, right? So we're trying to help people raise money. We're trying to help people optimize their business in order to get capital or in order to get to a place where you can sell the business. And that takes time, and that's you have to show that there's like an engine, and like here's how the engine works, and here's how the car runs. Um, as you kind of take a look at, you could have probably raised money and said, hey, I'm going to go replicate what I built, and I'm going to go do 20, 30, 50 personal training studios, in the tri-state area. Instead, you decided to go down this path of writing a book, exposing you're basically giving people your playbook, for $20 or $30. I didn't buy the book yet, but ultimate, gym owners marketing guide, right? It's the ultimate marketing guide for gym owners. Um, so how did you kind of go down that and say like, hey, I'm kind of here to serve, which is kind of what a personal trainer does, like it's part of your DNA. Um, and I'm going to stop asking the question right now because there's questions in there. So I have to put a
So
question mark at the end. So fire away, bro.
So I went back and forth with what I wanted to do, right? And as a gym owner, a lot of times you think, what is the next thing? The next thing is more gyms and open up more gyms. And I was friends with a guy named Seth Godin at the time, and I was email buddies
Sure.
with Seth. And actually, one of my masterminds, we went to his office, and that was a scary sight for Seth that 12 very, very large men walked into his office. Like that wasn't the crowd that Seth was used to, but I got to be friends with him. And I asked him, I was like, I'm going back and forth with opening up a second gym. And his advice to me was, I think you should think long and hard about opening a second gym. He's like, one gym means you run a gym. 10 gyms means you're in the business of running gyms, but two gyms kind of just means you're all over the place. And what it meant was, if you're not going to do 10, don't do two. And that was like my thing. I was like, I don't want 10. I don't want 15. I don't want 50 gyms. That's just not me. It's just not how I roll. And I was like, I'm just going to have one really good one and then teach others how to run one really good gym. So it was really that advice that kind of changed the game for me. And my natural, like, I love to speak, I love to write. I'm kind of in the what's what we call an information marketing business.
Mhm.
And that just fits my skill set, right? My skill set, I like to write, I like to speak. So it was just a very good kind of sweet spot for me personally. Now I have a lot of guys that are opening up multiple gyms and scaling
Right.
in my group, but it was just not my decision to go that route.
When you see, I'll just ask you a question because like this comes up in my brain every now and again, where it's like, hey, I helped this operator go from like 10, and there's one guy actually was 17 when I got involved. Now there's like 105, and I can do the math on like what his ownership is, what his percentage of that, what his net worth is. Obviously, we get paid like on you know the deal. We might get paid some like retainer, but I'm like, hey, I kind of like if I didn't do this, he wouldn't have done that. And now there's like another 90 clubs that have like 8,000 members. There's like a million people that get to work out now because of like this deal that I helped them get done. And I'm sitting here, being like, hey, I don't own any percentage of that. But at the same time, I'm like psyched that like I guess the financial side, like, yeah, that'd be great if I had, 5%. But it's also great that there's 105 gyms. And that's kind of like gets me excited more than like the capital component of that. So how do you kind of bifurcate between like, I could have done that and, I could have had this potential value, but I also actually probably had this amount of sleep and I probably would have had this amount of liability. And who knows when the next, COVID wave's coming through that makes that all look like awesome idea, but wrong timing.
I think it's a great question. And I think it all comes back to your definition of success, right? I think
Yeah.
that some people have a view of success, but I think only you can define your own definition of success. And for me, like having 105 gyms, yeah, that's a financially successful, viable thing. But I have my own definition of success, which is, a ton of time with my kids and time with my wife and being, able to do the work I want to do and live a lifestyle that I want. So it really was probably one of the most powerful things I've done in my life was define success because then I don't see what others are doing and I'm like, oh, I wish I did that. Oh, I wish I did this. I have created my definition of what I view is success, and then I go after and do it. I'm kind of living that right now, and I'm happy for the guys that I have one guy in my group. He's opened up 10 gyms in the last like 20 months,
Yeah.
and he's killing it, and he's making a lot of money, and I'm proud of him and happy for him.
Yeah. When you go back to where you started or being a personal trainer, what do you think some of the traits of personal trainers are that allow them to become where you're at? Or to, say, hey, I did 3 years of personal training here and now I'm going to open up a club and a lot of if you're a celeb, I'll say this, if you're a celebrity trainer, like you got your own kind of like ego and like diva kind of power, which might limit your ability to go and open up a business that doesn't have your name on it necessarily. But I feel like a lot of personal trainers have become very successful club operators, it's very successful managers, and have gotten private equity. And they started as a personal trainer. I don't know if you've kind of like look back and say like, hey, what did I learn? I learned a lot of patience. Am I a really good listener? Um, give me a couple like traits that you say like, if I wasn't a personal trainer, I don't think I would have gotten these things out of myself.
I think it all comes back to your ability to deal with people. I always say like a good trainer is when a client is driving to the gym and is like, I cannot wait to spend an hour with someone. I used to have a guy named Big Tom, and Big Tom he was the first trainer I ever hired. He was
This
six
isn't
foot.
Tom Plummer.
No, no, no.
I just can't just
This is
joking.
yeah. But I remember there's a story where I had this decision to make. He was 6'9", and he had no really education in fitness. He played college football, but like had no CSCS or anything like that. And then I was also hiring at the same time, looking at another guy that was like the perfect trainer on paper, right? He had every kind of credential, degree in the field, all of that stuff. And I'm going back and forth between these two guys. And I was like, I picked the guy that on paper was like probably not the right person to pick. And there was some intangible that this guy had. And I think if I could pinpoint it, it was like people really enjoyed being around him. And you could be a great X's and O's person and a great, have all the knowledge and all the things. But if people don't like spending an hour with you, they're not going to stay a client. And so this guy, he was with me for 13 years. We had an unbelievable relationship. We're still very good friends today. He ended up going off and opening his own gym afterwards. But I would say that it was his ability to deal with people. It was his ability to be able to kind of get people to laugh, to get people to be engaged. That was the one quality, if you will. Now, I will say this: there are a lot of really good personal trainers that don't become good gym owners, right? And so it's not like just because that's one thing. So you have to be able to, I think, as a business owner, you have to be able to manage your own emotions. Like that's probably one of the most important things that I teach my guys. Like I don't teach this a lot on the marketing side of my business, but when they get inside of my groups, we are teaching them mindset. We are teaching them how to control emotions. We're teaching them how to make decisions. So just because you're a good trainer and you're able to be good with people does not mean that's going to translate to being a good gym owner. So it's but if I were to answer the question with the quality of a personal trainer, I was like 100%. You just have a good personality. You have to be able to deal with people well, and people want to be able to spend an hour with you.
Yeah. In your marketing materials on your media kit, you talk about, impacting communities and kind of making the personal training, department almost like, the impact, investing part of like the club, or like, here's how like you really create a tight community. And then that kind of emanates from there. Those are like buzzwords that a lot of people kind of use, but it seems like something that you've actually instituted into like a business model. Can you talk about how others do that, or like if you go to one of your seminars, or go, what you getting at, or like what's the story behind the story on how you do that, and not just say like we're a community based place. We value our members. A lot of that's buzzwords, but there's like a playbook for that.
Yeah, so I would say, on the gym side of things, I think CrossFit did a really good job of this, of teaching gyms how to build community, and we had definitely, benefited from that. But I mean, there's all kinds of things that people are doing these days, especially in these gyms, that are not just getting people to come work out. They're getting people to become part of this very, very thing that's bigger than themselves. And so you talk about the Starbucks third place thing. I think that a lot of gyms have done a really good job of their gym being kind of that third place in their community. And I think that that's like what drives retention. Like it's almost like the hair salon. It's like someone never changes their hairstylist. They just like keep going over and over and over again because they have built a relationship with that. And I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. The leader of the business kind of needs to foster that. And it really needs to do a good job of fostering that. If the leader of the business isn't a good kind of person that brings people together, it's going to be really hard and challenging to do. So a lot of our guys are doing all kinds of stuff locally in charity events and things like that. But I think it's a huge area of retention for these guys to be able to build communities, get their clients involved in what's going on, with the day to day of their business for sure.
So one of the things I want to pivot over to is, there's been a lot of inflation across the entire, U.S. economy. There's a lot of low cost operators that are, still out there and saying, $15 a month or $19 a month. Obviously, that doesn't include personal training. Some people do have, personal training on EFT, where you go once a week, or you go twice a week, and that's kind of embedded. Um, I'm still having a problem with what it cost me to take an Uber from like 82nd Street to like Grand Central, and realizing that that's like $60 during whatever time that they feel like, making it $60. Whereas I'm getting a health club membership for like 19, and I'm getting like small group training, and it costs me like $99 a month at the place that's like keeping me sane, alive, and thriving. Yet I'm paying like this Uber driver, no offense, and I just got $60. So when you take a look at price in this industry, there's personal trainers that say, hey, look, it should be like $200-300 an hour to spend time with me. And others are like, no, we're going to do like $25 and it's marked up to 50 by the club. It's like, well, what's the price to value? And how do you like stop racing to the bottom of something that we should be racing to the top of?
Yeah, I think the most important part about price is choosing the right customers. And typically, when you choose the right customers, price isn't so much of an issue.
Right.
So when I first opened my business, I was a 23-year-old kid. I couldn't imagine spending $500 a month on a gym membership, right? It was just didn't make any sense to me. But the people that I was helping, the clients that I had were doctors and lawyers and finance people in New Jersey. And I would tell them $500 a month, and then they would almost like snicker and be like, that's it.
Right.
Right. And to
Exactly.
me, that didn't make any sense. But to them, it's like to this lawyer that values and knows he needs his health because he's got a really stressed job. $500 a month for a gym membership is like a drop in the bucket. So the key is, and then I'm not saying that's everybody, right? There's some people that definitely hemmed and hawed. But the reality of the situation is you decide on price based on the target market of the person. And if you want to be able to have a premium business and a business that charges a good amount of money, then you want to decide and narrow the market to be able to find people that can afford that. So I think a lot of it comes back to, your marketing and you deciding who is the person that I want in this business. That's what I always say. It's like that is the most important decision, right? Is not what you're going to sell. The most important decision is who's going to buy it. And I have so many people that come to me for business advice all the time, and they have they get obsessed with their product. They get obsessed with the thing they're going to sell. But it's just like, get obsessed with the person. Get obsessed with the person that's going to buy it. What are their fears? What are their desires? What are their dreams? And then get to know that. I just spoke at a franchise conference called Alloy Personal Training. I was on stage
Oh yeah.
just this past weekend. And that was one of my key points in the whole thing is getting a PhD in your customer to really understand on a deeper level, what is this person? What are their needs? What are their fears? What are their pains? What are the desires? And then build a business around solving that person's problems. And you'll be able to charge a decent amount of money for what you're doing.
A lot of people have been talking for the last couple of years about artificial intelligence. And I took one of my jackets, my old one of these black jackets, and I put on a big logo on the back that said, "You can't have artificial intelligence until you have intelligence."
Yeah, I see that.
You go to software companies, you ask them like slice and dice the data. It's like, bro, all you have is like the guy's name, his birth date, and his credit card. Like, what do you want to slice and dice? Right? It's just like bizarre to me that you can't run your business to the point of what you're saying. It's like when someone buys your business, they're buying your member database, right? And your lease. The other stuff is just like noise, right? It's like an afterthought. Um, so when you think about like quantifying and like getting this data, is there a part of like your marketing plan that says like, look, you got to go deep. I got to know if I'm a personal trainer, if you're my personal trainer, and I'm saying, yeah, I work out with Vince. You probably know more about me than if I actually had a therapist, which I haven't gotten one in 52 years because my mom used to say like, oh, cousin so and so goes to a therapist. Like, so if I went to therapy, I'd be like, at that level of like crisis mode. Which her and I have a little issue about that. However, let's not talk about my mom.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's not go there, bro. Anyway, my point is, like, what kind of data are you collecting, or that
Yeah.
that running one location, you might not need to like put into a database, but it would be nice if it was in there, almost like an activity log of like everything you know about me.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's essential. And we do a pretty basic. I'm sure there's way more sophisticated ways to do this, but we have what we call a client card. And every client that comes into our gym has a client card. And there are certain data points that we look for. Some of it obviously is when they come in, there's a movement screen that they do. So we'll know if there's a bad knee or a bad shoulder. And whoever the trainer is that trains that person that day, they have that info. But it's also the intangible stuff. It's what are their kids' names? It's what do their kids
Exactly.
do?
That's
It's
what I'm
like
talking
that.
about.
Yeah. And it's like, what is their job, right? What do they do for a living? Do they sit all day? Are they up and moving and everything like that? So yes, we have an entire card essentially on each person that we do. At some point, if it got much bigger and scaled, we would need to automate that and create it into some kind of a software, which I'm sure someone out there is easily doing this. But for us and for those listening to this that have smaller businesses, you don't need to go high tech on this stuff. We literally have a card and we write stuff in, and if something happens, oh, tweak their shoulder doing a shoulder press, we would write that on the card, and that gives us the notes that we need to kind of keep moving forward to individualize their experience.
Awesome. In closing here, you want to, give us, a takeaway or a story, or who's the right people to reach out to you, what kind of situation that they may be in.
Yeah. Yeah. So I work mainly with brick and mortar gym owners. And, essentially the thing we do, we try to simplify it. I really think businesses can be broken down into three things: getting clients, keeping clients, and building cash. And that's kind of the service that we provide for our guys, is really getting people focused to focus on what matters and what are the few things that you're going to do. The whole 80-20 principle. What are the few things you're going to do that is going to move the needle the best for your business? So if you're a business owner that was into getting clients and keeping clients and building cash, then we can certainly help you. Best thing for them to do is just go to get my book for free. It's
Yep.
just smogerpersonaltraining.com, and they can get it for free at that link.
Awesome. Well, we use the HALO acronym, Health, Active, Lifestyle, Outdoors. So you're here by now, an anointed HALO evangelist.
Thank you.
And, you can use that royalty free, and look forward to meeting you up in person here.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
All right, man. Awesome. Good to meet you.